Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll start with Unit 2nd, that is Chapter 3, Types of Statistics in Physics. Although we are familiar with types of statistics as we have discussed these statistics in first chapter of Unit 1, basically, these statistics are divided into two types, classical statistics and another one is quantum statistics. When we talk about classical statistics, that means we are dealing with MB statistics or Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics. And when we talk about quantum physics or quantum statistics, that means we are dealing with Bose-Einstein and Fermi-Dirac statistics. Before we take up these statistics one by one, we must know few terms like phase space, division of this phase space into elementary cells, and third one is basic approach to all these three statistics. So we'll first start with the phase space. Phase space is the area or space where the particle in the system is located. For example, we have xyz coordinates. That means this xyz coordinates are position coordinates which are specifying the position of the particle in the system, and these coordinates are known as position space. As in most of the system in nature are dynamics, so in such cases we require six coordinates to specify the position of the particle. The three coordinates are position coordinates and the other three coordinates are momentum coordinates, which are represented by px, py and pz, are known as momentum space. That means in all giving you six coordinates as x, y, z, px, py and pz, and which is known as phase space and is also six-dimensional space. That means a combination of position and momentum space is known as phase space, and we always require six coordinates to describe the behavior of dimensional space, and this concept of phase space is very useful since it describes the behavior of a dynamic system. So this was all about what we basically mean phase space. For the division of this phase space into elementary cells, the volume available in phase space can be divided into large number of compartments, and each compartment is further divided into a large number of elementary cells of equal volume. And now we'll see how we divide a compartment into large number of elementary cells. Volume of elementary cell in phase space is given by d tau, which is equals to volume in position space multiplied by volume in momentum space. Now we know that volume in position space is represented by dV, whereas the volume in momentum space is denoted by dP, and d tau is taken as dx, dy, dz because it is representing the small volume, whereas dpx, dpy and dpz is known as dp, giving you h naught cube, whereas h naught is the constant having the dimensions of angular momentum, because h naught cube is nothing but it is equal to the position multiplied by the linear momentum. Let this d tau is taken as dx dpx, dy dpy and dz dpz. We have collected the same dimensions in one bracket. That means d tau is equal to h naught cube. This h naught cube or h naught can have very small value or the value as we want to have in classical system, because there is no restriction on choosing the value of, yet having the choice of h naught, because we can measure the value of h naught as small as we want or as large as we want. So it is clear now that in classical system the value of d tau is equal to h naught cube. Whereas when we deal with the quantum statistics, as we know that there is always a constraint on the system, and then that constraint is nothing but which is known as uncertainty principle, that we cannot have the value of h naught as small as we want, because dx px is always greater than or equal to h. Further, dy dpy will be also greater than or equal to h. Further, similarly, we have dz and dpz greater than or equal to h, whereas h is nothing but it is the Planck's constant, and when we combine all these three, we'll get d tau is greater than or equal to h cube. In quantum mechanical system, when we calculate the value of a h, d tau comes out to be is equal to 2.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 100. That means in quantum statistics, we cannot have the value of phase space less than this value. That means d tau is greater than or equal to h raised to the power 3. So number of elementary cells in phase space can be calculated by total volume in phase space divided by volume of one elementary cell, which is equal to volume of phase space is denoted by volume integral of dx dy dz, and moment volume integral of dpx dpy dpz divided by volume of one elementary cell, which is denoted by d tau. So I hope it is clear now how the element phase space is divided into the elementary cells, where d tau is equal to h naught cube in classical statistics, and whereas it is equal to h cube in quantum statistics. This was all about the phase space and division of phase space into elementary cells. Further, we have three kinds of statistics. Basically, statistics is divided into two categories. One is known as classical statistics and another one is known as quantum statistics. When we talk about classical statistics, that means we are dealing with Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics, in which the particles are indistinguishable from one another. And this statistics was able to explain the phenomena like temperature, pressure, and energy, etc. Whereas there were few phenomena which could not be explained with the help of Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics, and resulted into development of new statistics, which is known as quantum statistics. This quantum statistics is further categorized into two, like Bose-Einstein statistics and Fermi-Dirac statistics. This Bose-Einstein statistics applies to identical, indistinguishable particles of zero or integral spin, and the particles which obey Bose-Einstein statistics are known as bosons. And further, Fermi-Dirac statistics applies to identical, indistinguishable particles of half integral spin, and this statistics basically applies Pauli's exclusion principle, or consider Pauli's exclusion principle, and the particles obeying Fermi-Dirac statistics are known as fermions, which are like electron, proton, and neutron. Now, let us come to basic approach in three statistics. This is the approach which applies to all the three statistics. Like in any dynamic isolated system, the total number of particles n and the total energy has to remain constant. This is the first condition, that the particles and the energy of the total system must be same. That means the number of particles are represented by summation of ni, which is equal to constant. If we differentiate it, that means giving you 0, and consider this as equation number 1. For the energy, total energy of the system is given as summation of Ni Ui, whereas Ni are the number of particles and Ui is the total energy of the individual particle, which is again constant, and when we differentiate it, giving you summation of Ui dni is equal to 0. Let us consider this equation as equation number 2. When the system is in equilibrium, then it exists only in the most probable state. I have already explained you that what does it mean, the dynamic system, and what do you mean by the equilibrium of the dynamic system. That means if the system is in equilibrium, that means the system is in most probable state and the number of particles are maximum at that state. And for that system, W must be maximum. What is W here? It is the thermodynamic probability. And what is thermodynamic probability? It is the number of microstates. That means naturally larger the number of particle, larger will be the thermodynamic probability, or larger will be the number of microstates. For all natural system, W is very large number. We therefore deal with log of W. We take the thermodynamic probability W as log W to make it simpler to derive. That means when W is equal to maximum, log of W will be also is equal to maximum. Now, the derivative of log W is equal to 0 because log W is maximum or constant. That means derivative of constant comes out to be equal to 0. Let us consider this as equation number 3. Now, the three equations 1, 2 and 3 must be simultaneously satisfied by the system irrespective of the kind of statistics to be applied. That means these three equations must be satisfied by all the three statistics individually. These three conditions can be incorporated into a single equation by the method of Lagrange's undetermined multipliers. We multiply equation number 1 with minus of alpha, equation number 2 by minus beta, and add to equation number 3. So the final equation we'll get as d log w minus alpha summation of dni. This was the first equation. We have multiplied this equation by minus alpha, and this is minus beta summation of ui dni is equal to 0. This was the second equation. Here we have multiplied it by minus beta equal to 0, or we can write it as d log w minus summation of alpha plus beta ui multiplied by dni is equal to 0, giving you equation number 4. This equation is basically called as basic approach to all the statistics. Further, let us come to Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics applied to an ideal gas in equilibrium. That means you know that. What does it mean? Ideal gas, if you are considering the ideal gas, that means particles are in motion and this ideal gas is in equilibrium. That means you are in most probable state. Now the total energy U is divided into 1 to 3 to k intervals or compartments of magnitude U1, U2, U3 to UK. In these compartments, let N1, N2, N3 to Nk represent the number of molecules in these energy intervals or compartments. That means what is important here is first to calculate the thermodynamic probability for macrostates N1, N2, N3 to Nk, which is given as n factorial I goes from 1 to k product of gi raised to the power ni divided by ni factorial. We know that we have already done this calculation of thermodynamic probability in the previous lecture. This is the thermodynamic probability. Now, taking logarithm of this equation, I have written this equation for you all here because it was in the previous slide, so I was not able to explain the how we have taken the logarithm of this equation. See, how do we take logarithm? That means we'll get log of w is equal to log of n factorial. Because it is product, you know that when we take log, that means product get converted into plus. plus log of gi raised to the power ni. That means it is log of m raised to the power n, which is written as n into log m. Similarly, it can be written as ni into log gi. Pi can be written as summation of I goes from 1 to k ni log gi. Again, the things in the denominator is always taken as minus with the numerator when we take up the, for example, we have log m divided by n, that means it can be written as log m minus log n. Similarly, it will go into the numerator, that minus of summation I goes from 1 to k log ni factorial. Now, applying Stirling formula, the Stirling formula is given as log n factorial equal to n log n minus of n. This Stirling formula is applicable to the term which has factorial. That means here in first equation we have factorial and the last equation we have factorial. Applying the Stirling formula on first and the last equation, we'll get like n log n minus n. This very term will remain as it is, and here applying the Stirling formula, we'll get as summation of I goes from 1 to k ni log ni plus summation of I goes from 1 to k ni, whereas ni represent the total number of particles. That means this equation can be written as n. That means here we'll get n and n over here, because both have opposite signs, will cancel the effect of one another, and finally we are left with log w is equal to n log n plus summation of I goes from 1 to k ni log gi minus of summation of I goes from 1 to k ni log ni. Now differentiating this equation by taking gi and n constant. This was the equation which we have got after applying the log and the Stirling formula. So now differentiate it, as we know that gi is constant and n is constant. That means when we differentiate this term, log n is constant, n is again constant, it will give you 0. And further, summation of ni log gi. Log gi is constant. When we differentiate it, that means we'll get dni log gi. Similarly, here in the third equation, we have summation of I goes from 1 to k ni log ni, because ni here is variable. Again, log ni here is variable. That means to differentiate two variable, we have the formula like first function into derivative of second function. That means when we apply this formula, we'll get dni log ni plus ni into 1 upon ni multiplied by dni. That means it is first function into derivative of second function plus second function into derivative of first function, because we don't know that with respect to what we are differentiating it. That means we have to write dni as well. This ni and ni will cancel out. That means we left here with summation of I goes from 1 to k dni. As in the basic approach, we have considered dni as 0, because derivative of constant numbers equal to 0. So finally we are left with d log w is equal to summation of I goes from 1 to k dni log gi minus of summation of I goes from 1 to k dni log ni. When we collect these two terms, that means we'll get summation of I goes from 1 to k log gi minus log ni multiplied by dni. As we know that for most probable state w is maximum, that means d log w is equal to 0 by taking this whole equation as equal to 0. Further, putting this in equation number 4, which we derived in the basic approach. The basic approach is d log w minus summation of alpha plus beta ui multiplied by dni. Now substitute the value of d log w which we have just calculated. That means it will be summation of I goes from 1 to k log gi minus log ni. By opening the bracket, we'll get minus alpha minus beta ui whole multiplied by dni, because dni is common in both the cases equal to 0. That means product of two things are equal to 0 when one of the product is not equal to 0. That means by taking log gi minus log ni minus of alpha minus beta ui is equal to 0, because here it is log m minus log n. That means we can write it as log gi over ni, because log m minus log ni is log m divided by n. Or taking this term into the right hand side, we'll have alpha plus beta ui. Now taking the exponential, it will exponential and the log cancels the effect of one another. That means we'll get gi over ni is equal to e raised to the power alpha plus beta ui. That means ni, taking the reciprocal of this equation, ni over gi comes out to be equals to 1 upon e raised to the power alpha plus beta ui, or you can write the number of particles as gi divided by e raised to the power alpha plus beta ui, or finally you can write the distribution of particles as equal to ni divided by e raised to the power alpha multiplied by e raised to the power beta ui, as e raised to the power alpha plus beta ui can be written as e raised to the power alpha into e raised to the power beta ui, which is known as the Maxwell distribution. Boltzmann distribution law means how the particles are distributed in the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution law. Further, the term Ni over Gi, it is very important and is known as occupation index. In Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution law, Ni upon Gi is always less than 1. This question is generally asked in multiple choice question or either important according to the competitive examination point of view. So be careful, Ni upon Gi is the occupation index. This occupation index is different for different statistics, like it will be different for Bose-Einstein statistics and it will be different for Fermi-Dirac statistics. This was all about the Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics. I hope it is clear that how do we derive the equation for Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution law. If you are not clear with any equation, any line or any topic, you are most welcome to let me know. So thank you and have a nice day.